The Pentagon just admitted that military aircraft accidents increased 55% between 2020 and 2024. That is not an estimate from critics or a projection from analysts. That number comes directly from Department of Defense data provided to Congress in January 2025. In fiscal year 2024 alone, 25 service members were killed and 14 aircraft destroyed. The Marine Corps nearly tripled its accident rate. Apache helicopter crashes increased 4.5 times, and 2025 is already worse. The Navy went from 8 Class A mishaps in 2024 to 14 in 2025. Between October 2019 and July 2024, the U.S. military lost 90 service members, destroyed 89 aircraft, and accumulated $9.4 billion in damages. None of those losses came from enemy fire. Every single one happened during training or routine operations. This video breaks down the verified Pentagon data, examines which aircraft and branches are failing, and explains the combination of factors driving America's worst military aviation safety crisis in nearly 2 decades. Before examining the numbers, it helps to understand what the military actually measures. The Department of Defense categorizes aviation accidents into classes based on severity. Class A is the most serious category. A Class A mishap is defined as any incident that results in a fatality, permanent total disability, destruction of an aircraft, or damages totaling $2.5 million or more. This threshold was raised from $2 million in 2009 to account for inflation. The standard measurement is Class A mishaps per 100,000 flight hours. This rate allows comparison across different aircraft types and time periods, regardless of how much each platform actually flies. An aircraft that flies 50,000 hours per year and has one crash looks very different from an aircraft flying 10,000 hours with the same single crash. In fiscal year 2020, the combined military Class A mishap rate stood at 1.30 per 100,000 flight hours. By fiscal year 2024, that rate had climbed to 2.02. That 55% increase represents the steepest 4-year rise since the early 2000s. The military tracks these statistics through service-specific safety centers. The Army Combat Readiness Center handles Army aviation. The Naval Safety Command covers both Navy and Marine Corps aircraft. The Air Force Safety Center manages Air Force statistics. Each service reports to the Department of Defense, which compiles the overall figures. Senator Elizabeth Warren obtained comprehensive data across all services through a formal request to the Pentagon. That data, released in January 2025, provides the most complete picture of military aviation safety trends in years. It forms the basis for the statistics cited throughout this video. The 55% overall increase masks significant variation between services. Some branches improved slightly, others experienced catastrophic deterioration. The Marine Corps saw the worst decline. Their Class A mishap rate jumped from 1.33 per 100,000 flight hours in fiscal year 2020 to 3.91 in fiscal year 2024. That represents a 194% increase. Nearly tripled is accurate. The Army followed close behind. Their rate increased from 0.76 to 2.02 per 100,000 flight hours. That is a 166% increase. The Army recorded 15 Class A flight mishaps in fiscal year 2024. That total was the highest since 2007. The Navy experienced a 57% increase, from 1.12 to 1.76 per 100,000 flight hours. But the trajectory is accelerating. Naval Safety Command data shows Class A aviation mishaps jumped from 8 in fiscal year 2024 to 14 in fiscal year 2025. That is a 75% single-year spike. The Air Force saw the smallest change at 10%, from 1.72 to 1.90 per 100,000 flight hours. However, the Air Force started from a higher baseline and still ended fiscal year 2024 with one of the highest absolute rates. Specific aircraft tell an even more concerning story. The AH-64 Apache helicopter experienced a 4.5 times increase in Class A accident rates from fiscal year 2020 to fiscal year 2024. Of the Army's 15 Class A flight mishaps in fiscal year 2024, 9 involved Apaches. The Army Combat Readiness Center called this the most obvious trend in their annual assessment. The V-22 Osprey accumulated 4 fatal crashes between 2022 and 2024, killing 20 service members and triggering a fleet-wide grounding that lasted 3 months. The UH-60 Black Hawk contributed multiple fatal incidents, including the January 2025 collision with American Airlines Flight 5342 that killed 67 people over the Potomac River. Looking at absolute numbers rather than rates reveals the human cost. Fiscal year 2023 saw 10 Army Class A mishaps and 14 fatalities. By April 2024, just 6 months into fiscal year 2024, the Army had already recorded 12 mishaps and 10 fatalities. The full fiscal year 2024 ended with 25 killed and 14 aircraft destroyed across all services through July 31, 2024. Fort Campbell, Kentucky has suffered disproportionately. 9 soldiers died there in March 2023 when 2 Black Hawks collided during night vision training. 5 more died in November 2023 when a Black Hawk crashed in the Mediterranean. 1 pilot died in June 2025 during an Apache exercise. The 101st Airborne Division and 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment have lost 19 personnel in training accidents since 2023. The Apache's 4.5 times increase in accidents demands explanation. This is America's primary attack helicopter. Boeing has built over 2,400 of them. The Army operates approximately 700 Apaches across active duty, National Guard, and reserve units. 8 of the 9 Apache class mishaps in fiscal year 2024 were attributed to human error, not mechanical failure, not enemy action. Pilot mistakes. This pattern points directly to experience levels. Pilots and aviation warrant officers today are significantly less experienced than they were during the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. Major General Mac McCurry stated this explicitly when addressing the crisis. The numbers support his assessment. Average flight hours per Army aviator dropped from 302 in 2011 to 198 in 2023. That is a 35% decline. Pilots are logging 100 fewer hours per year than their counterparts did a decade ago. The experience pipeline has a structural problem. It takes 6 to 8 years for an aviation warrant officer to become fully proficient. But the Army accumulated a shortage of 731 active-duty aviation warrant officers from the 2010 through 2017 year groups. These are the personnel who should be serving as experienced mid-career pilots today. Instead, senior officers are filling junior positions, and junior pilots are operating without adequate mentorship. The Alaska collision in April 2023 illustrates the consequences. 2 Apaches crashed while navigating a mountain pass as part of a 14-helicopter formation. 3 soldiers died. The formation was conducting routine training that experienced pilots would have handled without incident. February 2024 brought 2 more Apache crashes within 11 days, 1 in Utah, 1 in Mississippi. Lieutenant General John Jensen responded by grounding all 1,300 Army National Guard helicopters indefinitely. That stand-down affected every helicopter type, not just Apaches, because the underlying problem was training and readiness across the force. The Army ordered additional safety stand-downs in April 2023 and April 2024. Each time, flight operations resumed. Each time, accidents continued. The Army Combat Readiness Center's January 2025 assessment declared fiscal year 2024 a year that Army aviation looks back on in hopes of never repeating. That same assessment noted the service had not successfully reversed the trend despite multiple interventions. The V-22 Osprey presents a different problem. Unlike the Apache crisis driven by human error, the Osprey's fatal accidents traced to known mechanical defects that went unaddressed for over a decade. The June 2022 crash in California killed 5 Marines, including Captain John Sachs, son of former MLB player Steve Sachs. The cause was a dual hard clutch engagement, or HCE. This occurs when both clutches in the Osprey's drivetrain engage simultaneously during flight, causing catastrophic power loss. The Marine Corps had known about HCE risks since 2010. 12 years passed before the first fatal incident. During that time, the problem was documented but never fully resolved. The November 2023 crash off Yakushima Island, Japan killed 8 Air Force personnel. The investigation revealed a different mechanical failure. The left proprotor gearbox failed catastrophically due to cracking in a high-speed pinion gear. That gear was manufactured from defective X-53 steel. Investigators discovered 10 previously unreported in-flight component failures from the same material defect. Those failures occurred before the Japan crash. Safety assessments documenting the problem existed, but were never shared with pilots. Lieutenant General Michael Conley concluded that safety assessments and their findings were given insufficient treatment at the program level. The entire V-22 fleet was grounded from December 2023 through March 2024. That grounding affected approximately 400 aircraft across the Marine Corps, Navy, and Air Force. When the fleet returned to flight status, it operated under severe restrictions. Aircraft must fly within 30 minutes of a landing location. Full unrestricted operations are not expected until mid-2025 at the earliest. The redesigned clutch to fix the HCE problem will not arrive until mid-2025. The gear material issues require inspection protocols and potential replacement across the fleet. At a June 2024 congressional hearing, Representative Stephen Lynch warned officials directly, "If another Osprey goes down, we are done. This program is done." The Osprey has killed 62 people in crashes since it entered service in 2007. 20 of those deaths occurred between 2022 and 2024. The aircraft costs approximately $80 million per unit and was supposed to revolutionize Marine Corps assault support. Instead, it has become the most controversial aircraft in the military inventory. The pandemic's impact on military aviation extended far beyond the initial 2020 lockdowns. Training disruptions created a debt that remains unpaid 5 years later. 15 Strike Eagle pilots flew an average of 19.1 hours per month in 2017. By 2020, that number had collapsed to 6.6 hours per month, a 65% reduction in cockpit time. Exercises were canceled globally. Aviation units suffered disproportionate COVID outbreaks. One deployed aviation combat element constituted 30% of its cohort, but accounted for 50% of positive tests, creating over 1,500 lost workdays. The National Commission on Military Aviation Safety reported in December 2020 that pilots were graduating training without basic skills. They arrived at operational squadrons without enough experience. One pilot told investigators that when he reached his unit, it would be 6 months since he had flown. By 2022, approximately 1,000 Navy student pilots were waiting to start training. Commanders described the situation as crisis mode. The Air Force produced only 1,276 pilots in fiscal year 2022 against a goal of 1,500. The service remained approximately 2,000 pilots short of requirements. Aging aircraft compound the training problem. The Air Force's average aircraft age grew from 17 years in 1994 to over 31 years in 2024. 8 fleets now exceed 50 years old. KC-135 tankers average 60.35 years. These aircraft require more maintenance, break down more frequently, and spend more time in depots. Aircraft availability dropped from 73% in 1994 to 54% in 2024. That means approximately 1,900 Air Force planes sit out of commission at any given time. When aircraft are not available, pilots cannot fly. When pilots cannot fly, they lose proficiency. When they lose proficiency, accidents increase. The F-35A mission-capable rate fell from 69% in 2021 to 51.5% in 2024. V-22 Osprey readiness dropped from 61% in 2017 to 33% in 2023. The 2018 goal of 80% readiness for F-16s, F-22s, and F-35s was never achieved. Deferred maintenance across military infrastructure totals $50 billion. Simulators that could supplement reduced flight hours are frequently outdated, out of service, or unavailable. Maintainers are assigned non-aviation administrative duties that command structures value more for promotion than their actual maintenance responsibilities. The statistics represent real crashes with real casualties. A timeline of major incidents since 2020 shows the pattern. March 2023, Kentucky. 2 HH-60 Black Hawks from the 101st Airborne Division collided during night vision goggle training. 9 soldiers died. This was the deadliest Army training accident since 2015. August 2023, Australia. An V-22 Osprey crashed during Exercise Predators Run. 3 Marines died. The investigation cited a culture that disregarded safety of flight. November 2023, Mediterranean. An HH-60 Blackhawk from the elite 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment crashed during routine air refueling training. 5 soldiers died. The 160th Night Stalkers are considered the most skilled helicopter unit in the military. November 2023, Japan. ACV-22 Osprey crashed off Yakushima Island during a routine training mission. 8 Air Force personnel died. This was the deadliest Air Force accident since 2018. January 2025, Washington, D.C. AUH-60 Blackhawk collided with American Airlines Flight 5342 over the Potomac River. 67 people died, 3 Army personnel and 64 civilians. This was the deadliest U.S. aviation disaster since 2001. September 2025, Washington State. A Black Hawk crashed during a training flight. 4 soldiers from the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment died. The 160th has now lost 9 personnel in 2 accidents within 2 years. These incidents share common elements: night operations, training exercises, experienced units making basic errors, mechanical systems failing in known ways. The 55% increase in military aviation accidents creates strategic consequences beyond the immediate human cost. Every aircraft destroyed is an aircraft unavailable for combat. The 89 aircraft lost between October 2019 and July 2024 represent approximately $2 billion in hardware that would need to be replaced. At current production rates for helicopters and tactical aircraft, replacing those losses takes years. Every pilot killed represents 10 to 15 years of training investment. The aviation warrant officer shortage already exceeds 700 personnel. Each fatal accident deepens that deficit. The operational restrictions on the V-22 Osprey directly impact Marine Corps expeditionary capability. The Osprey was designed to transport Marines from ships to shore faster and farther than traditional helicopters. With the fleet limited to flying within 30 minutes of landing zones, that capability is severely degraded. Adversaries monitor these statistics. China's military aviation accident rates are classified, but their pilot training hours have increased significantly over the past decade. Russia's accident rate remains higher than America's, but the gap is narrowing. Congress established the Joint Safety Council in August 2022, following the National Commission's recommendations. Its effectiveness remains questionable. A July 2023 meeting focused on motorcycle fatalities rather than aviation. The Government Accountability Office has made over 100 recommendations to improve military readiness. Most remain unimplemented. The Pentagon's response to Senator Warren's data request acknowledged that the figures underscore the importance of safety and readiness at every level. No concrete timeline for reforms was provided. The 55% spike in military aircraft accidents since 2020 reflects failures in training, maintenance, and leadership priorities. The Pentagon's own data confirms every major claim: the overall rate increase, the Marine Corps tripling, the Apache 4.5 times spike, the Navy's jump from 8 to 14 Class A mishaps. If you want more detail on specific aircraft mentioned in this video, I have full breakdowns on the F-35 and F-22 Raptor,